cooperation with French-speaking countries, particularly African ones, in the fields of economy and education. In an interview to Radio Romania's correspondent in Gerba, the State Secretary with the Foreign Ministry, Traian Fiștă, who represented Romania at the summit, outlined Bucharest's areas of interest.
Cel mai important sector în care putem să avem un impact mare.
The most important sector in which we can have a major impact is the IT and cybersecurity, two fields in which Romania has excellent performances and where Romanian companies are already present in the African market, and the potential for growth is a lot higher than we would have expected. Another field is obviously industry, the automobile and spare parts exports, which may see a recovery after a period of absence. Not least, we should look at the foodstuff market. Africa is a continent with a great future, and I think we can capitalize not only on the transfer of goods, commodities and services, but also on the fact that a lot of youth from these countries come to Romania to study and they pay for their education. So we are talking about financial transfers from these countries to Romania. At the request of the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, the Gerba Declaration also includes a reference to the Russian invasion of Romania's neighbor, Ukraine. And that wraps up today's newscast on Radio Romania International. Don't forget to also follow us online at rri.ro and on Facebook.
Focus on Romania. Dear friends, Radio Romania International continues its traditional polling of listeners on Shortwave, the internet and social media with a new challenge in spite of yet another complicated year. It's been difficult because of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war waged by Russia against Ukraine, as rocketing prices of energy into famine in some parts of the world, and also the growing inflation which has turned everyday living into a burden for many people around the globe. We would like to ask you which person you think left their imprint on the world in a positive way in 2022. We are preparing to designate, based on your options, the personality of the year 2022 on Radio Romania International. Who could this person be? And more importantly, why? Would it be a public figure or somebody unknown to the larger audience, but with a special story? It's up to you to decide as usual. You can send your answers by commenting on our website at rri.ro, by email at engl@rri.ro, on our Facebook profile, on WhatsApp at +40744 312650, and by fax at 0040 21 319 0562. We recall that in 2021 we did not have a personality of the year, but people of the year on Radio Romania International as medical workers were designated the world's best citizens for being in the front line against the COVID-19 pandemic, together with those who developed the vaccines against COVID-19. The personality of the year 2022 on Radio Romania International will be announced online and in our shows on January the 1st, 2026.
fontes líquidas em 2050 e investir 4 trilhões de dólares por ano em renováveis até 2030. Pela primeira vez, fala-se de um fundo para compensar as perdas.
Being much more precious than gold, that perish. Though it be tried with fire, might be found. In whom though ye now see him.
And we also have 15 minutes from All India Radio, and also we have a 30-minute broadcast in the morning and again in the evening from Radio Veritas in the Philippines. Although Radio Veritas is owned and operated by the Catholic Church of Asia, the programming is nothing like, the strict gospel programming that you would hear from some of the other broadcasters who are religious oriented.
There seems to be more international broadcasting, though, in the Tamil language, because not only is it common to Sri Lanka, but you will find Tamil speakers in the southern part of India, and also, I believe, in Malaysia.
Yes, you get a sizable population in Malaysia, then also in East Africa. So we get more Tamil broadcasts. Now, for instance, the BBC, when they had the big cutback a couple of years back, they did away with Sinhala, but they retained their Tamil service. So because Tamil has a bigger audience, when you're thinking in terms of 50 to 60 million people in India speaking the language, I think that's a bigger audience. So you have more Tamil than Sinhala.
But just to clear up any confusion, I noticed that some people call the language Sinhalese, other people call it Sinhala. What does that mean?
Well, it means the same thing. Some people, especially in the West, term it Sinhalese and also call the people Sinhalese, but people in Sri Lanka refer to themselves as the Sinhala people and the language Sinhala.
Well, to my mind, the different languages and the resulting communications problem is a contributing factor to the present ethnic troubles on this beautiful and fertile island. And I can't help feeling sorry that the violence, especially further north from here, is not only a daily occurrence in the last few months, but also a point of conversation with almost everybody you meet. It's during these troubled times that people are hungry for news, and listeners compare what they have on the domestic radio with what's being beamed into Asia by a number of foreign shortwave radio stations. Listening in Sri Lanka, you very quickly become aware that foreign correspondents here are forced to oversimplify an extremely complex political problem that changes by the hour. Travel is slow, you see, and also difficult because of the state of the roads. 40 miles an hour is the speed limit, even slower since the monsoon rains hit this part of the island last Saturday. And you find that one foreign correspondent is being asked to cover events in a country of just over 65,000 square kilometres, about 1.5 times the size of Holland, which would involve hundreds of journalists if it were in Europe. Not surprisingly, then, the standard of foreign reporting here varies from excellent to simply dreadful, for it's difficult to explain the necessary background to a conflict in 3 minutes. Well, that said, let's look now at broadcasting within Sri Lanka, which has an interesting history. The Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation studios and offices are now a well-guarded complex in the Colombo metropolis. But it started in one of the oldest parts of Colombo, dating back to the Dutch colonial era. It's called Fort. The chairman of SLBC, Mr. Levi Vichamana, explained the curious history to me.
The first studio was at the Central Telegraph Office in Fort. Thereafter we shifted to the university building, which you see out here, Colombo campus. From there we moved into one of the rooms here. This area was housed the mental home. We were there till 1941, late 41. During the war, they built an aerodrome right across the racecourse. At that time, the racecourse was out here, passing in very close proximity to our studio. So we naturally had to go. So overnight, we shifted to a little place in Kotar or Baral. And at the time I joined the service as a member of the staff, we were there. We had 2 studios. We did a lot of broadcasting at that time, but all broadcasting in all languages was done on one transmission. We shared that transmission. It's from there that we shifted to the present location, where they built this station just after the war. you find that we have got ground floor buildings most of the way, and that is because there was a shortage of steel at that time, after the war.
The shortwave transmitter site, familiar to shortwave listeners in Asia, also hasn't changed much since the Second World War. On a visit there a couple of weeks ago, I was amazed to see 10 old 10-kilowatt shortwave transmitters from Dutch origin are still running, and the main 100-kilowatt shortwave transmitter, that's the pride of the place, used to be for the Southeast Asia Command, that's the SEAC Forces radio, during World War II. It's really huge, and a credit to the engineers that it's still running, long after the original spare parts have disappeared to radio museums.
This is a commercial service. The news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation will follow in a few moments.
That was part of a special program about Sri Lanka that Jonathan Marks produced for Radio Netherlands Media Network in 1985. We'll have the next installment of this program in an upcoming WaveScan. And you can find a lot of vintage Media Network programs on the following website: Jonathan Marks, that's JonathanMarks.LIBSYN.com. That's JonathanMarks.LIBSYN.com. We end WaveScan today with traditional folkloric music from RCI, Radio Caraïbe International, a network of radio stations on the French islands of the Caribbean, including Martinique. Thanks for listening to WaveScan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Adrian Peterson. Next week, the early radio scene at Seattle in Washington State, and our Australian DX report. WaveScan is heard weekly on KSDA in Guam, AWR relays in various locations, WRMI in Florida, WWCR in Tennessee, KVOH in Los Angeles, Voice of Hope Africa in Zambia, and IRRS.
A nuestros radioescuchas con relación al folleto Dios y la razón.
Por supuesto, Francisco. Como usted ha dicho, el folleto Dios y la razón revela la armonía de la Biblia de una manera tal que satisface la mente y el corazón. Lo primero que indica es el dilema que confronta al mundo y muestra que la Biblia señala la única solución, la cual es la solución divina.
Saludos desde el centro de la isla para los amigos de Radio Cuba. Con resultados favorables, concluyó este 20 de noviembre en Villa Clara la prueba dinámica previa e imprescindible para la realización en todo el país del próximo domingo. Kilowatt, which do not require such high installed power. This time, again, the Environment Fund Agency's program also covers the connection to the power grid as an eligible expenditure. As for the funding, a school maintain a maximum of 80,000 euros, of the designated up to 200,000 euros. Towns are eligible for up to 400,000 euros, and tourist resorts for 600,000 euros. Depending on their population, cities may apply for a maximum of 800,000 to 1 million euros, while the capital city, Bucharest, may receive up to 2 million euros. The money can be accessed by December the 23rd by the interested beneficiaries. You have been listening to Think Greener.
Next in this program, sports.
Let's continue with the latest news from sports.
Thanks, Alfonso. I don't have to go see it, but then you're listening to Radio Havana, Cuba. Thanks for We're on the internet too. Streaming audio in real time. On the web. You can check us out on Facebook. Like us there. Give us a thumbs up. Tweet us on Twitter. Give us a channel on Telegram. We're on Instagram too. We're all over the place. On the multimedia platforms. Radio. Let's go back.
2-month period, hoping to relieve my lower back pain. I was only 40 and I hiked daily along with eating a fairly healthy diet. I was not overweight and didn't really have a reason for my back pain. As soon as I started using 3 sprays of Synergy 1 each morning,
To drive you away is to actually bring you nearer to God. All we got to do is just fine-tune that to the Spirit of God. And one of the examples, because I was asking for an example.
Standard disclaimer. Here's an easy way to reference the new B22 shortwave schedules. They're linked from the homepage of worldobradio.com. Just look for B22 and click on some of those. There are quite a variety of different formats, not including quite yet the FCC, which is always lagging behind with the new seasons. We continue to hear LRA 36 Antarctica, 15475.98, reduced carrier upper sideband via remotes in Argentina for their 2 weekly broadcasts. Saturday, November 12th, it came on at 14:58, went off a few minutes later but came back until 16:23. And on Wednesday, November 16th, already on, tuned in at 14:59 and went off at 16:16. They always stop abruptly without a formal sign-off, but when they replay the opening message mentioning the names of the staff, that's a clue that they're about to turn off. Bangladesh and Nan, a 3-way clash of ASIN stations continues on 4750. Totally unnecessary since there's some other frequencies nearby, not in use anymore. But Manuel Mendez in Spain heard Bangladesh Betar, November 15th, at 1802 to 1824 in Bengali. Ron Howard in California replies, on November 16th, checking from 12:15 UT, I found Bangladesh off the air from 4750, and propagation was good, so he was hearing Voice of Indonesia on 4749.95, mixing with CNR1 China and Kodar as well. When Bangladesh is broadcasting, it's very difficult to hear the Voice of Indonesia. With a bit less seasonal noise on the 2 megahertz band, we're not hearing the 2 Canadian Coast Guard frequencies, as a few others are still active anymore, 2749 USB and 2598 USB. 2749 is for stations in Nova Scotia and vicinity. However, November 11th at 07:25
25. Two of them were on the air at the same time, apparently with a security, that is, some kind of warning message in English and French. Apparently this was so urgent that they didn't care whether they interfered with each other or not. But rather self-defeating. I hope everyone survived. According to dxinfocenter.com, on a regular schedule, nothing was supposed to start until 0740 from VCO in Sydney, Nova Scotia. That's the one I was presumably hearing then on November 13th at 0745 with marine weather, while the other frequency was also active, 2598 USB. At that time it would have been VCP4 in Placentia, Newfoundland. In the NASA flash sheet, Ralph S.W. Perry in Illinois reports on China 6200. Voice of Jinling in Nanjing, heard November 10th with a good signal at 12:35. Usual program of evocative, modern keyboard and acoustic guitar music selections, and Mandarin announcements over the music at 12:40. He says either the Nanjing evening radio audience craves repetition, or else the program director at this station is pretty lazy. I keep hearing the same songs over and over again every time I tune in, voice of Jinling, during this time frame, between 12:30 and 1300, over the past few DX sessions. I ran across both styles of Chinese jamming this week. On 9900, November 12th at 22:47, there was a double Chinese echo, which means CNR1 jammers against scheduled Radio Taiwan International. And then November 15th at 16:13 on 11590, I was hearing Fire Dragon jamming. I had not run across it in quite a while. It was about equal level to Chinese talk, which would have been Radio Free Asia via Tinian. Fire Dragon is that all-instrumental music, mostly percussive. Something's always wrong at Radio Havana, Cuba. This week we've been treated to the return of a number of spur blobs out of their 13 megahertz transmitters in the mornings before 16 UT or a little after, originating from 13700, and in the afternoons or evenings from 13740. It would take too long to give all the approximate frequencies I've monitored, but they are at approximately 65 to 70 kilohertz displacements from the original frequency. Sometimes only 4 of them are audible, other times many more, extending even as far as past the 14 megahertz limit of the 20-meter ham band. For example, the ones out of 13740 were heard November 12th at 22:35. One of them landed about 13608, extremely distorted, which would have made a fine jammer better than ordinary noise if Radio Marti were still on 13605. These vobs are often somewhat more readable if you can tune them in the narrowband FM mode, when you will also hear a tone about F sharp. Although missing from 5040, clearing the frequency for a barely audible carrier from Vanuatu. Radio Havana, Cuba appeared on the second harmonic of 5040, November 13th at 0756 in Spanish. These sloppy raiders at Balta must have accidentally tuned up the 5040 transmitter to its second harmonic. On the RAC website of interest, the frequency schedule shows a change of times and frequencies as of 17 November. Except that was 2 years ago. They're still showing the B20 schedule. On a Michigan de-expedition, Harold Froach reported Radio Republica on WRMI 5010, November 12th at 0442. Strangely enough, there's no mention of Radio Republica on WRMI schedules. However, transmitter 14, aimed south on 5010, is shown on the air at 03 to 06 with something. And on November 16th, I was hearing Radio Republica from well before 0400 until it switched to Brother's Care at 0600. It seems the only topic for 2 or 3 hours was workers' rights, derechos de trabajo, and more of that the following night. And so far, no jamming to be heard. East Turkestan, land of imperialist Chaikham genocide against Uyghurs and other Muslims. November 15th at midnight 41, I had barely audible carriers on a quartet of frequencies. This combination making it 100% certain that they are from PBS Xinjiang in Urumqi, now on their winter channels, for 4 different language services, Chinese, Uyghur, Kazakh, and Mongolian, respectively on 5060, 4980, 4850, and 4500. International Vacuum and Internet. The schedule for World of Radio on World Radio Network I gave last week. proved to be incorrect. I was trying to project when we should be appearing following the previous season's schedules. But now they've given me the correct current schedules. The service for North America is at the same time as a separate service for Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. But these are the World of Radio times in UT. At 02:30 Sunday and Monday, 11:30 on Sunday, 1700 on Saturday, and 20:30 on Saturday. And the European service is daily at 13:30, Saturday at 17, Saturday and Sunday at 21 UT. By the way, I'm very grateful for our long-time relationship with WRN, which makes World of Radio available just about worldwide via satellite and certainly internet. Joe Jacobs says, as of November 6th, NHK World Radio Japan has deleted some of those fill-in English broadcasts on weekends only when Russian or some other language is taking a break. They're 20 minutes long. They had been at 03:30, 4:30, 5:30, and 10:30 UT. Lots of reports from Europe about Radio Russia appearing at 11.
Human flesh entered bodies, and what happened? They had affairs with women and ended up...
Caes en 67 kilogramos, víctima 5-0 el inglés, el Lady Wagner, pese a los muchos esfuerzos por sobreponerse a...
Living Romania. This is Bucharest, Radio Romania International. Listeners Letterbox.
There absolutely were. So, I mean,
Mighty working, bring them up.
En la mañana del miércoles 23.
God, they understood what happened in the land of Egypt. All the others would see, man, this is a...
This was listened to by Chinese people. In the Michigan ARE tip sheet, Bob Tart and Lowell reports a couple of good Mexican medium wave DX catches on 740 XEQN, Radio Formula in Torreon, Coahuila, heard November 6th coming on at 11:58 UT. And on an 870 XCTAR in Huachochi, Chihuahua, La Voz de la Sierra, Tarahumara, also at 12 UT November 6th. XCTAR was one of my favorites if I'm ever awake around sunrise anymore, but XCQN 740 has been perpetually off frequency, rumbling against RMG interference at night. Breaking just a bit for me to mention last week, a new frequency for Radio New Zealand Pacific, replacing the interfered 13730. As of November 11th, it's 13755, all the way from 07 to 13 UT. We may hear it somewhat, but unfortunately it's a bit too high to propagate reliably to North America overnight. The entire 6 hours are aimed toward the Pacific, but there's a split antenna usage after 09 UT also to the Northwest Pacific, Monday through Friday. Most North American pirates are, of course, just below 7 megahertz, but some of them venture far beyond. In the Nashville flash sheet, Mark Taylor in Wisconsin reports hearing Radio 48 via Mixed Radio International, November 12th at 2235, changing from 12060 to 12070 to 12080 to 12085 USB, a wild show, mixed IDs from Radio Free Whatever and MRI, altered to Radio 48 IDs. They were still going at 2325 Fun Pirate Radio, with a good to very good signal via International Vacuum, Internet, AM, FM, and short.
You know what? They don't have a king over them.
Next month, Alan Gale, Lancashire, England. Well, Alan, what a great and informative message from you. As usual, you are very thorough and provide us with great technical information. We wish you good luck with the winter weather and the way it affects the signal of your reception. Once again, great message, and keep in touch, obviously. Thank you very much. And now we keep it in Europe with a message from our friend Petri Kosterma. I hope I pronounced that well. From Helsinki, Finland. And he writes, Dear Radio Romania, hello and greetings from Helsinki, Finland. I listened to the medium wave domestic program of Radio Romania Actualități on 756 kilohertz, but could not find an email address for your domestic service. I would appreciate it very much if you could help me and forward this message with attachments to the person or department who verifies reception reports for Radio Romania Actualități. I was a DXer back in the 1960s, and have now, after my retirement, picked up the hobby once again. I still have a QSL card from Radio Bucharest from 1968 in my files. I used to listen to both shortwave and medium wave stations early on. Now I mainly try to listen to domestic medium wave stations, as they have more local programming, including plenty of good music. Here is my DX reception report of Radio Romania Actualități. I had the pleasure of listening to your station on 756 kilohertz on Friday, November 11th at 1744 to 1814 UTC, 1944, 1914 CET. I often notice your domestic programs on various medium wave frequencies, and from time to time your signal strength is almost like a local station. The Romanian language is interesting, since every now and then I can understand what you're talking about, since I always speak French. To verify my reception, I have attached one short MP3 sound file. It has your station identification and time signal. I hope it gives an idea of the reception quality may be better than only simple numbers. Reception quality, Simpo 45343. Good signal strength with no interference from other stations, moderate noise, and slight
signal-to-noise ratio, SNR, was good, around 12 decibels. And my receiver showed signal strength of around S9 dBm. My location, downtown apartment building in Helsinki, Finland. My receiver, SDR Play RSPDX, software-defined radio, connected to my laptop computer. My antenna, indoor active magnetic loop antenna MLA30+. Thank you very much. With best regards, Petteri Kostelma, Helsinki, Finland. Wow, Petteri, that was definitely a great message, the likes of which we don't often get. You are obviously a very passionate radio listener, and we are grateful to have you as a friend. Also, there is a lot to unpack there. So, let me start by congratulating you on such a long career in radio listening. Also, the idea that you are passionate about our local radio station, I mean national, of course, is very gratifying. We definitely did not expect our Radio Romania Actualitate signals to reach up to Helsinki, Finland, of course. However, it is great to hear about it, and the fact that you get such great reception. Congratulations on having that QSL card from Radio Bucharest in 1968. But those were different times. Romania did much better in the late 60s and 70s as compared to the 80s, where the dictatorship really clamped down on the population. So, I hope you have good memories from your listening to Radio Romania in 1968 and later on. Also, we'll be sure to get in touch with our friends at Radio Romania Actualitate. I'm sure they'll be happy to find out that they have listeners in Finland, well, at least one, and they get such great reception of our medium wave transmissions.
Rector of the Pontifical Lateran University, also known as the Pope's University, Vicentio Buonomo, delivered both the opening and closing remarks. He underscored that this conference is a step forward toward the eventual canonization of Father Varela as a Catholic saint. Felix Varela Morales was a Cuban Catholic priest and independence leader, born in Havana in 1788. At the age of 23, he was ordained a priest and devoted himself to teaching. Varela was an outspoken supporter of Cuban independence. His opposition to the Spanish monarchy led to his exile in 1823. He went to the United States, where he served as a priest in New York and became Vicar General of what was then a diocese. He founded Transfiguration Church in what is now Manhattan's Chinatown. Varela is known for his devoted pastoral care of New York's poorest residents, many of whom were Irish immigrants. After becoming ill, he moved to Florida, where he died in 1853. Nearly 60 years after his death, in 1912, Varela's remains were returned to Cuba to be laid to rest in the University of Havana's Aula Magna. Outside church circles, Cubans honor Felix Varela as a patriot and intellectual. In 2012, Vatican's Sacred Congregation for the Causes of Saints declared Father Felix Varela venerable, meaning he lived a virtuous life within the Catholic faith to a heroic degree, and as such is worthy of veneration. Musicians from Cuba, Italy, Sweden, and Russia performed on the closing of the 4th edition of Havana Classical Festival 2022 at Basilica Menor of San Francisco. Francisco de Asís Convent in Old Havana. Featured musicians included flute player Giona Venturi from Italy, violin players Ivan Lisi Abreu and Swiss Ross Sangane, Russian violoncello player Nikolai Shugaev, and Cuba's Camerata Romeo Chamber Orchestra, conducted by Maestra Zenaida Romeo. This year's fourth edition of Havana Clásica Festival was dedicated to 19th century musician Brindis de Salas.
Changed my heart. I look at that, Lord, only see men, and all of a sudden,
WTWW.US for now. Alan Rowe in the UK confirms that as of November 16th UT, they were not yet on the air after 0100. Very short notice, too late for this week and this month. Unless hot off the press, you're hearing World of Radio by webcast or the first airing on WRMI. But Uncle Bill Tilford says there's a new program on Radio Angela WBCQ 5130. UT Friday, November 18th at 0400 to 0500, Hobby Radio Broadcasting, a new monthly by Andrew Yoder, a respected authority on hobby radio. I guess that's a euphemism for pirate. Some of the DRM broadcasts from WINB have flipped. November 11th at 1617, I was hearing the DRM noise on the lower half, 15750 to 15755, while the other secret beepery was on the upper half, 15755 to 15760. The question is, why? What difference does it make? The Kevin Redding ABDX story from RBR.com, November 13th. From fans to industry leaders, talk host Jim Bohannon is mourned. On October 14th, his final program aired, health reasons cited, as the host's decision to retire. He was not well. On November 12th, it became known that he had passed away at the age of 78. Cause of death, cancer. This obituary goes through his career and now says NAB President and CEO Curtis Legite issued a statement, "Our industry has lost a legend in the passing of Jim Bohannon, who embodied the spirit of broadcasting. His charismatic nature, distinct style, and engaging programs have left an enduring mark on radio and the generations of audiences whose lives he touched." This refers to another story in the Washington Examiner, who headlined him as conservative. However, to me, he always seemed to be fair and middle of the road, certainly no flamethrower. Via Mike Sanborn, IRCA, a story from STL today. KFUO 850 is moving to 1380. The Lutheran radio station will soon have a nighttime signal in the St. Louis area. Dated November 7th by Joe Holloman. Thanks to a recent proposed purchase submitted to the FCC, Lutheran Church Missouri Synod have applied for permission to buy KXFN 1380 for $570 kilodollars from Relevant Radio. KFUO is now forced to turn off its 850 signal around sunset each day. Actually, that's not correct. It's sunset in Denver, but that's not good enough. And it's unknown if something else to replace it in St. Louis on 850, and by this story at least, there is no date about the shutoff or change to 1380. Here's an NID mystery from Ron Howard in California on 6300 USB. He's been hearing reciting from the Quran, October 29th from 0711 until off at 0730, and November 10th from 703 to off at 716. Mike Cooper sends a long story from the New York Times you might want to look up, November 14th. Time is running out for the leap second. Is it a kludge, a bane, a pain in the little hand? The world's timekeepers are proposing to ditch it. Will our days ever be the same? Today, the endeavor is a technical nightmare because precise timing has become integral to society's highly computerized infrastructure. The world's time mavens are making a bold proposal to abandon the leap second by 2035. Civilization would wholly embrace atomic time. Speaking of horology, there have also been some excellent stories making the case for permanent standard time, not daylight time. Available in or are linked from the World of Radio I.O. group. A propagation outlook from SWPC issued November 14th. Geomagnetic field expected to reach unsettled to active levels on these states with A and K indices peaking at 18 and 4, November 21st, 22nd, 26th, and December 2nd. Solar flux 105 through November 21st, and then ascending to a peak of 135 starting November 30th. If you're hearing this in time, FMDXers should be aware that the Leonid meteor shower is peaking the night of November 17th into 18th. And that's World of Radio 2165. Say, why not send a thank you to this station for broadcasting our program? And thanks also to our multitude of sources. Glenn Hauser inviting you to hear me again next week with a standard disclaimer.